All right, and we are live.
Live and in living color. Talk to me, man. Talk to me.
I guess we're in living color. I guess that's how this works. I don't know. I haven't done a live stream in so long. It feels crazy. But what better way to start it than the most important week in wrestling history in a long time?
It's a lot of things going on, that's for sure.
A lot of things. We're going to talk about, the potential of WWE selling, and a few other things going on in the wrestling world this week. But I am Chris Ace, the host of the Chris Ace Show.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm good. I watched 3 Royal Rumbles yesterday to get prepared for the upcoming Royal Rumble.
Which 3 did you watch?
I think the last 3 because they were on YouTube and I was like halfway napping through them.
Ah.
Yeah, I mean, I still think one of the loudest pops in wrestling history has to be when Edge came back.
It was, yeah, but yes and no, because it was expected. It was already leaked on the internet, which
I don't know, because I wasn't expecting it. I was like, you hear all the dirt sheets, you're like, all right, this is just some bullshit. Here we go again. Yeah, Edge is coming back. Okay, cool. And then he actually comes back and you're like, oh shit.
well, I was glad to see him. I mean, I was glad he was able to return and kind of like he said all along, whenever he's ready to hang it up, go out on his own terms. That's what you always want to see with any athlete, not just professional wrestling, but let them leave without feeling like there's unfinished business.
Yeah, well, I wonder what this leads into the WrestleMania season with him, because there's rumors that he's going to be teaming with FTR. They're on their way back to WWE supposedly. But
Maybe
we'll have to
depends
maybe.
on now. You never know.
I mean, they just lost all their belts, so
They might have been planning for a return, and I mean, it's the wrestling business. You can change your mind if you haven't signed on the piece of paper.
yeah. So we'll wait to see about that. But yeah, how are you doing? I know we haven't done this in a while. We haven't done an episode of How We'd Book It, which is now a retired podcast, which turned into pro wrestling this week. We had fun doing that, but I think, talking about the current product instead of how we'd book people is a lot better and more entertaining.
Well, to give you our undivided opinion on what's going on,
Yeah.
and some news along the way. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
a little bit of news. But yeah, so let's cover this first thing though, because I really want to talk about, it's pissing me off with Jeff Jarrett. I'm not mad at Jeff. I'm mad people are saying that he shouldn't be in AEW, because I love Jeff Jarrett, always have. Everybody's acting like, oh, he's in the main event scene. He's in the tag team scene, guys. Him and Jay Lethal are not winning the tag belts. Stop giving this man shit.
Well, I never thought they should have put him on Swerve and Keith Lee either, but that's just a different story for a different day.
No, I don't think that they were a official tag team. Never were. And I don't know.
I mean, AEW has a lot of tag teams. I mean, and to put the belts on Swerve and Keith Lee, I just thought was a slight to the rest of those guys. I was glad to see him come off of them.
Yeah, with the Acclaimed, which arguably the hottest thing in wrestling today.
They were for a little while. I mean, and then they kept leaving them off TV. I've told you before. My opinion on the whole thing is, like you and I've talked about before. When you get older, like I am, you'll look back and romanticize about the stuff you grew up on, but the product is changing. I'm not a fan of a lot of the stuff AEW does, nor am I a fan of a lot of the stuff WWE does, but I still watch it. So watch the product, enjoy it, and stop your bitching. If you don't like it, don't watch it. I mean, you're gonna see things on the program on both of them that you like, you don't like. If you don't like Jeff Jarrett on TV, flip the damn channel. I mean, it's that simple.
I mean, he's in better shape than a lot of the roster. That's the crazy thing. Best shape he's been in 20 years.
Oh man, yeah. When he had his little spell there before he went to rehab and he did what he did in Mexico, he come out, he was heavy. Even when he came out to when he came back to WWE for that little bit of run he had and come out in his old Double J gear, he was pudgy. And Jarrett's never been one to be pudgy. And he got sober, got his life together, and he's in for him and Billy Gunn, both two, probably the two oldest guys on the roster off the top of my head, and they're in better shape. Sting wears the bodysuit, so it's hard to tell what kind of shape he's in. That was Sting's shape was kind of what led to the debacle of Starrcade '97. But nor here nor there. You can't really tell what kind of shape Sting's in, and I think if he was in the shape of Billy Gunn or Jeff Jarrett, you might see that bodysuit come down some. So I have my opinions on that one, but you don't see Sting as much as you do, Jarrett now, and Billy Gunn has been, a staple on their TV for a while.
I mean, Daddy Ass?
That too. Scissor me, daddy ass. Scissor me.
Everybody's scissoring. It's great. It's a fun
But
time.
yeah, it is. I mean, but like, Jeff Jarrett's a heat magnet. And I told you when I heard his podcast and him talking about getting redemption on Max and taking some liberties, receipts coming, and I'm like, I was 95% sure it was a work, but there was that 5% hope of, man, maybe something real for once. And Karen kept tweeting, and then they set up the rematch, and I'm like, it's a work. You almost had me.
So let's talk about what led to that, though, because it was the rap that Max Caster came out with where he said he stole Kurt Angle's wife, which led to a lot of shit where Karen's tweeting at Kurt, and Kurt's like, what the fuck?
Well, that's I don't know. They may or may not have let Kurt in on a joke. You don't know. I mean, from what I've read over the past years, once the heat, the real life heat died down with the whole thing, that they became a close knit family, and Kurt and Jeff got along great. So I would say that Kurt was in on the joke, but again, you don't know. I mean, my opinion is he was in on it. That, hey, this is about to happen, and anybody that knows anything about behind the scenes in wrestling knows that respect is a big thing that goes on to the backstage. Max is still up and coming. There are, a lot of young guys in AEW, but there's also a lot of old guys in AEW, and, respect is, expected, back there for the curtain for those guys. And, I guarantee you, I would put money on the fact that Jarrett knew what he was going to say before he went out there. Now, if he's just going to go out there and rap about, whatever's going on in the town, about a team, about a politician, about
Andrew Tate.
that, say something about Vince McMahon or somebody in the WWE. No, he's not going to clear that with nobody backstage except for maybe Tony. But, if he's going to go out there and get personal with somebody, I would, nothing's 100% sure, but I would put money on the fact Jarrett knew what he was going to say before he said it.
My only issue with this is the whole Karen situation, because why is she tweeting at people saying, oh, well, Kurt slept with this person, this person, this person? Like, leave that the fuck alone if it's true. She tweeted, she said Kelly's name, and Kelly was like, what the fuck?
She's just, she's another one. She's a heat magnet when she's on TV. And this might be a setup to bring her in. I mean, they've been a package deal since they've been together, since it was known, and the whole stuff with Kurt was done and over with. So don't be surprised if you see her on AEW television soon.
Yeah, I don't think this tag team thing will last too long, them going after the belts. I just think they're another challenger for the Acclaimed. So we'll see how long this lasts. They already beat them at Battle of the Belts and on, I believe it was Dynamite before. So it's not going to last too much longer. But I think the whole thing, like, this was one of the times I was like, is he really pissed, or is this a work?
I was, when I listened to the podcast, I was right there with you. But the way both matches ended, I know you like her. I am not a big fan of Aubrey Edwards. I don't think she's
okay.
Great. I don't think she's that great of a referee. And, a lot of the stuff she does in the ring, puts the spotlight on her, and she's just a referee. The spotlight's supposed to be on the guys or the girls, whoever's performing. It's supposed to be on the entertainers. And I think she goes a little over the top trying to get herself over. And, but whatever they're doing with this, I think the reason Aubrey Edwards is being brought into this feud is to lead up to one Karen Jarrett coming in. Who's the other female they can bring in to, they're not, it's 2022. This is not 1997. So they're not going to let, Jeff Jarrett give Aubrey Edwards a stroke, or it's not going to be a Dudley Boys putting somebody like Mae Young through a table. They're not going to do that nowadays. But I think it's opening the door for Karen Jarrett to come in and feud with Aubrey Edwards, which I don't want to see. But that's just me. So,
I don't think that's going to happen. I hope not.
That's what I think.
I hope not. I really hope not.
I think you'll get one more match between Lethal and Jarrett and the Acclaim because of the way both of them ended. And then, they'll both go on to other things.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, for those bitch about Jarrett, I like him. Sting's on TV, Billy Gunn's on TV. The fuck over it.
And I'm sorry, but, Sting has not had the notoriety since after Starrcade 97. They did a couple of things. He's still an icon. He's still Sting, but
it's Sting.
They brought up, they did the whole 18-month build up to Starrcade 97. It was a popcorn fart of a match. And he's just kind of been Sting ever since. I mean, he makes the living on stuff he did from '97 prior, which good for him. I mean, um, he don't put forth the effort that he once did. Let's say that he hadn't been in the shape that he was in. That 18 months that he took off from the ring and was covered up. He hadn't been in the same shape since the last time you saw him as a Surfer Sting, and but he's still making money. Good for him. But
Yeah. I mean, he's okay.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
him and Darby will end up winning the tag belts this year, which I'm fine with. I mean, if it's just for one run, couple months,
I
it's
mean,
okay.
Jeff Jarrett has always been a heat magnet. He's a good heel. I never thought he should have been world champion. TNA, when TNA first started, and I was okay with that because that goes to old school booking and making yourself champion, not because you think you're that much better than everybody else, but if nobody's going to leave, you're going to be the one to still stand and trying to make your promotion work. And that was the thought process behind a lot of the old school stuff. Jerry Lawler being champion in Memphis, Devon Eric's keeping the belts in Texas. I mean, that's as old school gets. But as far as WCW goes or WWF, no, I don't think Jeff Jarrett was a world championship person, but a heat magnet he has always been.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see where that leads with AEW. But going over to New Japan, there's two people AEW or not AEW, WWE is interested in, and it seems like one of them is confirmed to leave with Jay White facing Hikuleo with loser leaves New Japan match. But it seems WWE is also interested in the guy that beat Carl Anderson for the Never Openweight Championship, Tama Tonga. Could we see them arrive in WWE?
Now,
Maybe.
is he part of the bloodline as well?
No,
No,
don't
that's
believe so.
Jacob Fatu. I'm sorry. Never mind.
Yeah, no, not them two. They're brothers, but Hikuleo is a giant. He's
No,
6'9".
I'm not talking about him. I was talking about Tama Tonga. If he was,
No, their dad's a wrestler, but I can't remember who he is.
oh, that's Haku's kid, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah. No, yeah. Jacob Fatu is the one that's related to the rest of them. Okay.
To the bloodline.
Which I would have rather seen him than God, I can't remember his damn
Solo
name.
Sikoa?
Thank you. I was drawing a blank.
He's not that bad. He's all right.
He's
He
not
all right.
that bad, but he's not as big as Jacob Fatu. If you want to bring in somebody and pattern him after Umaga, I mean, Solo's kind of little, to be honest with you. I mean, his brothers are bigger. You know, he I don't know. He kind of reminds me of Taz and why Taz couldn't get over in the WWE. He was just too small.
Yeah, I mean, he's short, but I mean, his matches are good. So he's good for what they need him for. He'll never be a main eventer, but he's fine for now.
Oh, yeah.
So getting back to Tonga and Hikuleo, I mean, it's very possible, especially with Triple H in charge. We'll get more into that later. That a lot of these New Japan guys could come over to WWE. I mean, I think the New Year's Smash New Japan event is before the Royal Rumble, so we could see Hikuleo debut in the Royal Rumble. But I don't know. They might send him to NXT.
I think in the coming months, as long as the management structure stays intact the way they have said it would, which it's a wrestling business, something could be changing while we're talking. I'll be honest with you. I would like to see NXT move back to Wednesday nights. For the simple fact of when it was moved to Tuesday, to me, that was just Vince saying, I don't like it. We're going to do with it what I wanted. It's not here to compete with, we're getting our ass kicked by, the show with Jericho and some no names on it. And we're just going to move it.
I don't think it will ever be able to succeed on Wednesday night strictly for the fact that AEW has a bigger name. And NXT, let's be real, it's developmental. I don't see it succeeding ever on Wednesday.
But again, you go back to what I was talking about, though. If you change the format, if you change the formula, which they have now, they've got the New Day holding the tag team titles, and like I said, it kind of went. They were running kind of neck and neck, even though it was developmental. They were running pretty close in numbers before it got moved to Tuesday, and Vince turned it into NXT 2.0. And that might stick in Triple H's craw. It's not that I don't think he has a bad spot for AEW, but it's kind of like, okay, I was building this thing and it got ripped away from me when I was sick. And the reason I say that is not to take a shot at AEW or NXT. I would like to see them go against each other again to raise the level of both products. Because if you go back in the annals of history, in my opinion, WWE has not been as good as when once they bought WCW, they
They
didn't.
just coasted.
Yeah, they did. And the creative wasn't there, the matches weren't there. And like or hate Roman, I mean, this is the best storyline they've done in a long time. I mean, people tune in to see what's going to happen. I mean, this past Friday, you saw the beginning of the Sami Zayn turn. And, they finally got back to doing a few things. And I think they could compete with AEW if it was done right. And I think it would make AEW up its game as well. I think everybody's a winner when you have competition. But if you're the only game in town on TV that night, you're going to get the default viewers that's going to watch whatever wrestling's on. But I mean, I was, I did it every Monday night. I was flipping back and forth.
I'm
Every
surprised
Monday.
you didn't have 2 TVs set up.
Well, I had a VCR taping one, and but I would still flip back and forth, and we just working in the bar business when I did, we would have it on separate TVs, but I didn't work a lot of Mondays. That was normally my day off, but I think it's good for it's good for the wrestling fans. I mean, the performers want to step up their game. They want to be the ones out there going, yeah, we won in the ratings last night. Look at the match I had. And I just, I think you get what I'm trying to say.
No, competition creates a sense of urgency to step up your game. I get that. I just think that right now NXT doesn't have the talent to compete with AEW.
Well,
Now,
with all these free agents coming about, that could change tomorrow, and they could send, they're running into the same problem that in my opinion AEW has. Triple H has brought back a lot of people,
Karrion Kross,
and they're not getting a lot of TV time. I'm not a big fan of Hit Row. I wasn't even when Swerve was in it. I think they lost a lot of charisma with Swerve not being there, and probably why the fans are, not
dead
really
set against them.
Yeah,
You want nothing to do with them, especially after that botch by Top Dollar.
Oh my God, that was hysterical. I was glad he was okay, but once I saw he was okay, I did laugh my ass off. I'm not even gonna lie. But
my thing about that is, like, I get he tweeted out, he was like, look, I was 50 pounds heavier and was able to do it here. It was my leg that was hurting and messed up. Look, man, if you're hurt and you don't think you can pull off a move, don't do it.
well, did you watch SmackDown Friday night?
Yes.
Did you see the main event?
It was, Jesus Christ, who was it?
Drew and Sheamus against the Usos.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's a reason I'm asking. Did you hear Michael Cole's shot when Drew went flying over the top rope?
No, I didn't.
That's how a big man's supposed to fly. I lost it. I was like, oh Lord, no wonder this man's mad. They're still taking shots at him.
I mean, like I said, do moves you can do. If you know your legs hurt, like, hey, I can do this later on. My legs just hurt right now. Don't do it. It doesn't make sense.
There's a famous story, and I forgot who the guy was, but
you're just gonna look like a fucking idiot.
Well, when Ray Traylor first got started as Big Bubba Rogers, as Jim Cornette's bodyguard, and you could find behave. You can find it in one of his stories, but he tells a story about Bubba being out there, and he did some kind of set down power bomb or something to somebody, one of the enhancement talents, and he hurt the guy, and everybody I always heard talk about Ray Traylor talked about what a nice guy he was and very soft spoken to be the character he played on TV, and. So when he got back to the locker room, Dusty just jumped to his shit and said, if you don't know how to fucking do something, don't fucking do it.
I mean, he's not wrong. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you don't know how to do it, don't do it. Like, not that Top Dollar couldn't have done it, because yes, he tweeted out a video from him on the indies doing it. But if you're hurt, don't do it, because all you're going to do is maybe hurt somebody else or yourself.
Yeah, well, yeah, that, or if thankfully you don't hurt yourself or somebody else. You're on national TV, man. This is, you got to expect to catch all the hell you're catching.
Mm-hmm. So I think my point with that is,
no, I mean,
stupid shit.
Yeah, we kind of squirreled off topic, but no, it's like I said, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are free agents. I mean, between FTR's contract coming up, the guys from New Japan's contract coming up, some of the other guys, that are still out there. there would be a way to bolster NXT's roster to make people want to watch and be competitive against AEW. And again, it's not to knock AEW's ratings down. I just think when you've got competition on the same night, it's been proven historically that the product is better.
Hmm. I mean, I agree. I think competition would be good, but NXT from back then does NXT now does not have the main eventers they had back then with the Undisputed Era. I think that's really what set them apart. And yes, he had good people to go against, but Adam Cole's now in AEW. Bobby Fish is insane. Kyle O'Reilly's doing, I think he's injured too.
Yeah, he is. Which,
But
that goes back to my problem with AEW. When they did that angle with the Young Bucks and Adam Cole turning on the Bucks with Fish and O'Reilly, why would you do that on TV? Because O'Reilly and Cole were both hurt. There was no payoff to it. It's like that's what I've told you before, off camera that I'm not one of these AEW haters. It's just a lot of the stuff they do doesn't make sense. And Tony Khan, he's a fan, and God bless him for giving the boys and girls another place to work. But he needs help. He needs somebody back there that can say, "Look, I see why you want to do this. People have been clamoring to see the Elite versus the Undisputed Era, but these two guys are hurt. We need to do this when we can get the payoff."
no, I agree. And now Bobby Fish is gone, so there's no payoff to that.
Well, yeah, Bobby, you could bring him back in a heartbeat if you wanted to. I mean, it's not
I
like
think he pissed people off.
He might had, but I mean, you put him on a 3-month contract for the angle, and then if he, was whatever, if he did better and was able to get along with everybody, maybe you keep him, maybe you don't. I mean, but there's ways to do things. People aren't going to turn down money,
No, I don't think he will. I just think that
and I don't know if you've
maybe
seen,
people
I
aren't
don't
willing
know
to
if
work
you
with him.
I don't know if you've seen the interview or not, but apparently CM Punk's ready to come back and do business and try to talk FTR into staying, so that they can come back and do a program with the three of them against the Elite.
We will see. I honestly, I'm not opposed to CM Punk coming back, but he needs a better attitude. I'm sorry, but that press conference was not the place to do that shit. You have issues? Cool.
I
That's
I,
fine.
I agree, but again, it's the wrestling business, and I mean, do you know what they got that big pop ratings wise when he first made his appearance and did this and that, and you know, like I said, he's hurt. I mean, I guess he's rehabbing and everything, but I mean, he's a student of the game. Like him or not, he's a student of the game. And he's been around long enough. He probably knew that whatever injury he had, which was the same one that Cody had, a torn pec, I believe. And
I believe that's correct.
I would not put it past him to grab them and to hey, get word back to the Elite to come to my dressing room when we're done, because I'm going to go out here and shit on everybody because I know I'm going to be gone for a while, and when I come back, we can do this hot angle. Now, is that the case? I don't know. But what all I'm saying is I would not put it past him. He is that big a student of the game. And, now that he's saying he's ready to come back and do business and wants to team with FTR against the Elite, makes it sound like business to me. And if it's not, good for him for having the business sense to capitalize on it.
Yeah, because it would be a hot angle. Everybody would clamor to watch it and be a part of it. But
And all the diehard AEW fans are, of course, going to boo CM Punk out of the building and cheer the Elite.
I mean, you should have heard us in Jersey.
Well, I can imagine. Well, I think I heard the chant. I didn't see y'all per se, but I did hear the chant.
Oh, that shit was loud as shit. It was great. I loved it.
But so I mean, again, it's what I don't know what's true, what's not, but it goes back to everything we've been talking about, like with Jeff Jarrett. I told you. There was 5% of me that said, this might be a little personal. And then they lost and they set up another match immediately for Battle of the Belts. I'm like, shit, it's a work. You almost had me. Because, I mean, if you listen to Jarrett's first opening monologue and his 20 minutes worth of podcast, man, he sounded like he was ready to kill somebody. And, and like I told you off air, if there would have been any kind of inclination that he might go out there and take liberties with Max Caster, there would have been some reason, whether to put the match off, cancel the match, somebody's hurt, we can't do it. And they went out there and, as soon as he reached over to try to smack Caster when he was in the ring with Bowens, I was like, yeah, this is a work. And then they, like I said, they lost the way they did, and the match was set up. So, again, I mean, is there possibilities in the wrestling business of things being real? Absolutely, there is. People get backstage heat all the time for whatever reason it may be. But like with Punk coming out and saying he's ready to work and do the 6-man or trios, whatever you want to call it. There's a high possibility, in my opinion, all that might have been a work.
Yeah. I mean, it might have been, it might not. Who knows at this point? I think with him coming back, it's more likely that it was a work. But at the time, everybody was like, "Ain't no way this is a work."
And that's what gets things over. I mean, it's like, the internet has ruined so much. I mean, we've talked about it before. I mean, how hot would the angle of the NWO been if it had been all over the internet for people to read that Scott Hall was debuting on Nitro that night?
Yeah,
Nobody, I mean, only a handful of people knew. And, so the element of surprise is gone. So when you can actually work something and suspend disbelief is the best term out there for professional wrestling, that's what keeps people coming back.
I agree. So moving on from that, let's talk about the biggest surprise in wrestling, or the biggest surprise night in wrestling, with the Royal Rumble. Who do we have winning this year?
Cody.
I think Cody too. I have to say, he's been gone for so long. He was supposed to come back, and from what I heard, he was supposed to feud with Rollins, which I didn't want to see. But now that Rollins is injured, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, what happened with him? You said he was injured.
I heard he had a match with Austin Theory, and he hurt his knee.
Oh,
so it's not confirmed that he's injured, but it's speculated online that he is. So he'll be out for a good little while.
I love that wrestling terminology. Are you hurt or are you injured? If you're hurt, we all work hurt on a daily basis. You can get your ass back out there. If you're injured, that's a different story.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens with him. But Royal Rumble coming up at the end of the month, I think it has to be my favorite event of the year. I think it's the biggest surprise night. And there's talk of doing more Forbidden Door entrants into the Rumble. Last year I think it was, we had Mickey James come out with the Impact Knockouts Championship.
Yeah, but the only thing I would not like about that, I mean, it's a novelty to see. Let's say Jay White shows up and does the Rumble, but being a New Japan contracted star, you already know he's not going to win.
What if he did?
He won't.
But if he did,
I mean, it's WWE. He won't do it. Not especially with Senior back in charge.
Yeah. So who do we think a Forbidden Door entrant could be? Because obviously they've been working with people in Japan. Shinsuke Nakamura went over there to wrestle the Great Muto, and from what I've heard, it was one hell of a match. You had Carl Anderson wrestle on Wrestle Kingdom against Tama Tonga for the Never Openweight Championship.
And that was one thing they did. That's the second time he's been back to defend the title. The first time he won, which I was really shocked with. I thought that he just was simply going back to drop the belt, and he kept it, and then he lost it on this last match. So I mean, you don't ever know, but and I'll tell you why there's not a possibility. Even if Vince wasn't back, the reason there's not even a possibility of, say, an Impact or AEW or New Japan star winning the Royal Rumble is simply WrestleMania. They need that big name from the WWE to challenge Roman for the title. And
yeah,
you need that big household name. And just because you have a lot of wrestling fans out there that may know who, Jay White is or somebody else. I mean, a lot of the WWE fans remember Mickey when she did it last year from being in WWE. But you're not going to get that big main event feel for the common wrestling fan that watches only WWE out of one of those Forbidden Door guys. So
if there was a Forbidden Door entrant, let's say you get one women, one men's, who would you want?
Where's it at?
I think Texas. Again? Yeah, it's in Texas.
I would love to see Britt Baker come out in the Women's Royal Rumble just to see what kind of reaction she got from a non-AEW audience.
She might get a decent reaction. I don't know. She is one of the hottest things in
I know
AEW.
That's what I would like to see. I would like to see outside the AEW audience, who knows who Britt Baker is.
So Britt Baker for women's. Who you got for men's?
I'm trying to think of who would get a good pop. I mean, you could bring out several legends to get a pop, and I just don't think it's that big a deal. It's just that's been there, done that several times. Not a big fan of Jay White. Um, I would honestly, and as stupid as it may sound, just because the bloodline is the best story WWE has going, I would say Jacob Fatu, just because they can say who he is and talk about his Japan days and talk about him being another part of the bloodline.
Hmm. Interesting.
And he's a big boy.
Yeah, he is. So I mean, that would be interesting to see. So I would say I'd like to see Will Ospreay come out in the Royal Rumble just because I think that would be entertaining. That's just for me.
And
That one.
that's what I'm going to. It's nothing wrong with that type of thinking, but it's like, and I'm not even going to give the guy the benefit of giving his name. I mean, when DeMar Hamlin got hurt last Monday on the Monday Night Football game, the guy sent out a tweet talking about how would the NFL do this by canceling the game because of the implications of the game, because it had first place and playoff implications. And he did end his tweet by saying, but that's all irrelevant now. But some people really took issue with the first part of the tweet because he was talking about what the NFL would do with the playoff scenario. And as a journalist, if you read his tweet, you kind of get where he's coming from, but also there was a man fighting for his life. And so when I look at the reason I'm saying this is when I look at the Forbidden Door entrance, I try to look at who this mainstream audience will know. And you don't want to say, I would hate as a wrestling fan to see Jay White or Will Ospreay come out and the fans just be like, who that? You might have 1,500 people in the audience.
I mean, that's what Vince expected from AJ Styles, if you remember.
Well, AJ had also been on Impact TV. I mean, none of these. I mean, these guys had, AJ had been on American TV for a while. He was established. Now, yes, Will Ospreay and Jay White has been on AEW TV. Ring of Honor just really didn't get that much of a. I mean, Ring of Honor was a cult following, and AEW has a similar following. It's more mainstream than Ring of Honor was, but it's like I would hate to see their first big break come and just some people be like, because then they haven't had a chance to build them up and do the vignettes and explain to the audience who they are. And I would hate to see a guy with that talent come out and just be no reaction.
I mean, it's fair. That's a fair point. For me, I'd like to see Will. For the women's,
Right. And before I let you jump in there, it goes back to why I picked Jacob Fatu, because they're going to know the name, maybe not the first one, but they'll know the last name, and the announcers can get it over with, saying Roman had something to do with getting another part of the bloodline, a surprise spot in the Royal Rumble. It just continues what they've been doing, if that makes any sense.
it ties into something that's already established in WWE, and I get that. So, I mean, I get the thinking, but like I said, I mean, as a selfish wrestling fan, I'd like to see what Will can do in the Rumble. But the
You know what Will could do in the Rumble?
win.
Whatever they let him do.
I mean, fair enough. It would just be entertaining.
If they let him go out there and do stuff he's good at. I mean,
well, I don't know, honestly, because could he be like a Forbidden Door entrant or a surprise WWE signing? Because he just lost the United States title to Kenny, which I don't think should have ever happened.
No, that was, unless he's leaving New Japan, there was no reason they should have passed that torch.
Yeah, it was a passing of the torch moment that didn't happen. And that's why I'm upset about it, because I love Kenny. Kenny's one of my favorites, but he's not a New Japan guy. He should have went back over there to put Will over and establish him as a guy. And as much people like to talk shit about Kenny, for a while, he was the guy in New Japan.
And I, I'm not a big fan of him. I mean, I've seen his New Japan stuff, and it's great. It is. I mean, those matches are phenomenal.
7-star.
He has no. That's FTR. Remember 7-star FTR?
Fuck the Revival.
But no, Kenny has not. And I don't think the Young Bucks have either. I mean, that's just a personal opinion. That's not me piggybacking off anybody's from what I see on TV. I just don't think Kenny and the Young Bucks have transcended very well in America. Um, they have a cult following that's that hardcore wrestling fan. Um, and it's just it's hard to get my point across without somebody thinking, oh, you just don't like AEW. I like AEW just fine. I watch it every Wednesday. There's some stuff, like, again, some stuff they do I really like, some stuff they do I don't. But that hardcore AEW fan that came over and was all excited for the guys that came in that Vince just wouldn't have even looked at, like an Orange Cassidy and Best Friends, Danhausen, stuff like that. I mean, honestly, I think Danhausen would probably have a better chance of getting signed by Vince than some of the other guys was, because he likes that shit. But
Very evil, very nice.
but some of those guys just were never going to be signed for NXT or WWE, and you know it gave their with Cody coming over and the Bullet Club coming over, and or some of the Bullet Club, and doing stuff, it gave wrestling fans another, like I've told you, I never have looked at them as competition for the WWE, but an alternative. And it gave them that alternative to watch, because a lot of people just did not like what WWE had been putting on TV. And I was excited. I was excited to see some of the other guys come over, but I think Tony wound up he's making a lot of the same mistakes that WCW made, which is every time somebody gets released from WWE, he's snatching them up. And like Keith Lee, I think he's seeing why WWE is just like, nah, you can go. He's not that great, and I
You
like.
don't want to bask in his glory?
No, I do not. Where the hell was I going with that? But I just none of Scott Hall was by far the best worker the NWO had. The NWO had, Hogan and his 3 moves. Nash called it his 5 moves of doom. Nash jokes about it. And I mean, Hogan's come out and, here in recent years and put Flair over as the greatest wrestler of all time, because he said he could, he said Flair was going 60 minutes, 7 days a week, twice on Saturday, twice on Sunday, when he was wrestling, 10 to 15 minute matches. It was just no comparison when it came to wrestling ability, which damn near made me fall out of my seat that Hogan would say that. But where I'm going with that, as far as, I won't say telling a story, but as far as work rate goes, yeah, Kenny and the Bucks are better than the NWO were, as far as work
by
rate.
miles.
But as far as work rate goes, now influential stuff and how long that people will be talking about the Elite versus the NWO. There's right now there is the Elite would have to pull off something miraculous to be in the same type of conversation and still be selling Elite shirts 25 years from now, the way the NWO has. The NWO was mainstream, just like Stone Cold and The Rock. And I just, that's not knocking the Elite. We will never see stuff like that again. I mean, Hogan for 15 years had been say your prayers, eat your vitamins. And, Vince had talked to him about turning heel, and he wouldn't do it. And,
Yeah, because the merchandise money.
Well, that, and, he was worried about his kids going to school and him being a bad guy and all that stuff. And when he finally did it, I mean, WCW exploded. And, you go back and look at it, like I said, can Kenny and the Bucks work rate wise? There's no comparison. Their work rate's much better than the 3 members of the NWO, even though Scott Hall was actually a very good wrestler. He just, you have to watch some of his early stuff when he was in AWA and, before the Razor, he had good matches as Razor, but, he didn't do a lot of the stuff he was doing in his earlier days, like when he was tagging with Kurt Hennig in the AWA and stuff like that. But, influence wise, the Elite do not come close to the NWO. Maybe in 25 years, maybe they can pull off a miracle. Maybe AEW will explode and, beat the WWE in ratings. I mean, you don't have a crystal ball. You don't know, but Tony needs some help, and he's going to have some work to do to get up to that level.
No, I agree. But with the way WWE is going right now, the potential sell, maybe in a few years, AEW will be the number 1 wrestling company. We'll see that. We'll see.
I mean, anything's possible. Nobody ever thought WCW would beat WWE. I mean,
and they did for a little bit, and then they went out of business.
I mean, Vince knew, that it was coming. When you watch documentaries, when Luger showed up on that first Nitro, he was like, whoa, okay. Now they're going to give me some competition. And they did. I mean, they almost put WWE out of business. I mean, it's
Proven fact.
been well known. Yeah, it's been well known that they came real close to doing it. And like I said, there's just stuff from both WCW and the WWE from 25, 30 years ago. I mean, hell, I think Ric Flair's got more of a iconic thing going on now than he had even back then. With the rap community and the football teams and stuff like that embrace him and have him out there for motivational speaks, before games and stuff of that nature. I mean, Flair's name's out there more than it ever has been for a while. I mean, yeah, of course, people on the East Coast knew who he was, and they went
that Ric Flair drip.
Oh yeah, I mean, so that's. I don't look at stuff to just shit on it. I don't think Kenny Omega is that great on the mic, and I think the Young Bucks as a tag team are overrated. They don't. I like storytelling, and if you watch Kenny Omega's matches from Japan, like the Will Ospreay match, from what I've seen, I haven't seen it all, but it told a story. The Young Bucks don't do that. It's a high spot after high spot after high spot after high spot with stuff that people should, it should be killing people, much less, not being able to kick out within a 3 count. And
I enjoy it, but I get the thought of a Canadian destroyer. I don't like the fact that move is overused.
Well, I mean, everything's overused. I mean,
super kick.
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, the Usos do it too. I mean, super kick after super kick. I'm like, oh my God.
Super kick party.
But, like I said, now, but that, we talk about the Elite being better work rate than the NWO. The NWO were better storytellers by a mile. And that's what got it over. I mean,
but half the stories that worked back then would never work now. Just
NWO,
because people's attention span is not.
Stories would work. Matches that go an hour long would not. Now
15-minute rest holds.
Yeah, I mean, now I'm interested to see. I'm interested, and I'm a little nervous to see Danielson and MJF go an hour. I mean, I hope they go out there and tear the place up. That's my hope. But there's also a chance of it going out there. I've never seen Max wrestle that long. Hell, I don't remember seeing Danielson wrestle a 30-minute match. I'm sure he has, but I just haven't.
Didn't he wrestle Kenny in an hour-long match?
No, it was Adam Page he wrestled. Yeah, that's right. It was the hour-long draw that him and Page had. But,
no. Kenny and Danielson went to a draw. I think it was either 30 minutes or an hour.
Yeah, I thought it was Adam Page, but I'll take your word for it. No,
Adam Page beat Kenny.
It was 30 minutes. That's what it was. It was 30 minutes. But like I said, no matches. I agree with you. Storytelling can still be done. I mean, it's what keeps things interesting. That's why everybody's so enamored that watches SmackDown with where the whole LA Knight, Uncle Howdy, Bray Wyatt thing's going, because it's telling a story. It's not just going out there and doing some kind of match. And I had to
the Mountain Dew pitch black match.
I'm not so much worried about the match, but it's like, I had to smile the other day because it goes back to certain things that they used to do back in the day. That a report was made that nobody backstage knew who Uncle Howdy was, because that he came in that mask and he left in that mask. It's purely speculation who it is.
Bo Dallas.
Yeah, maybe it's
we'll see.
Maybe it's what's his name that people are thinking it might be.
We will see. But all right, going on to the next point. Rollins is out with an injury. I think we covered that a little bit.
I told you I hadn't heard it yet. So
yeah, if he's out, I hope the best wishes to him. Hope he recovers soon. I don't think there's much to say on that, because what do you really say? But
best wishes, Seth, get well soon. Come back.
Yep, that's about it. But another big thing people are clamoring for is the return of the Hurt Business.
I agree. I would love to see them come out there. And if they would have kept that storyline going for a while and, actually built up Shelton and Cedric as a good tag team, because Cedric's a good worker, and Shelton, one of the best matches in Raw history was Shelton Benjamin versus Shawn Michaels back in the day.
With the super kick?
Yeah, with super kick. Shelton was coming off the top rope and Shawn caught him in midair. So that, and with MVP as the mouthpiece, it's kind of the same perception as the Bloodline. You've got Paul doing, the Usos can talk a little bit, but they're not roaming on the microphone.
No.
Solo can't talk, which is a good thing. They just keep him quiet. But you've got Heyman and you got Roman, and Bobby's promos have gotten better. So you got Bobby and MVP. I'll be interested to see if they actually say anything about MVP's turn on him for almost, or they just ride with it. And, I'd at least like to see them address it, and MVP be like, I'm
It
sorry.
ain't work out so well.
I'm sorry, man. I was just mad at you. However they want to do it, just at least address it. At least address it. And like, you won't remember this because you weren't even a seed yet, but years and years ago when Ole Anderson turned babyface for the once out of the 2 or 3 times in his career, he was a babyface for a whole year, and then he finally turned. And his promo that he cut was talking about how he was trying his best to figure out how to get to Dusty Rhodes. And so he decided the best way to do it was to make him think he was with him and bide his time, get right there in his inner circle, and then pick his best time to strike. And, so that was a year-long storyline. Everybody, buying that Ole Anderson was a babyface. I mean, just, give it some kind of explanation. That's all I ask.
Fair enough. I get that. So, yeah, I'd like to see the return of the Hurt Business. One of the best things during the pandemic era. I think that they did not go long enough, and they need another run. I think at one point they had all the belts except for the world title, which, if MVP wants to wrestle, put the US title on him. Actually, no, because I like Austin Theory. So, I don't know. At least give Bobby the world eventually, and Cedric and Shelton
bring in another member. I mean, it's not, they're not family. They're not the bloodline. So they're not family. So you could very easily bring in another member, to put with them. With that established group. That's all, they're already going to have that rub. So, bring in somebody else to, you can elevate Cedric and, Sheldon, and, give somebody else kind of like an evolution type deal where Flair and Triple H, gave that rub to Batista and Randy Orton to get them started on their way to superstardom.
Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully something happens with this. But I think the biggest thing we want to talk about, and here at the end of the show, is the potential of WWE selling. They have hired JP Morgan to advise over a potential sell, with Vince McMahon returning to the board, bringing 2 other members back with him that he fired during the pandemic. Thoughts?
Yeah, they well, I mean, the board didn't want it. From everything I've read said, there was people against it, did not want him back in there. I mean, there's talks of, NBC Universal, which owns Comcast. There's talks of Disney, talks of Netflix, talks of
the
Amazon.
Saudi government.
Yeah, them too. And I mean, money's money. I mean, he's not going to care where it comes from.
I promise you, if the Saudi government buys WWE, I will never watch it again.
Yeah.
And that a lot of people won't. Let's be honest. They'll be like, no.
They say that, but, here's something that nobody's even thought of, and I don't think it'll happen, but who's got a lot of money?
Tony Khan's dad.
Yep, he sure does. And if he don't have the money to buy it, he's got the connections to put a group together to buy it. Mm-hmm. Nobody's even talking about that, which goes back to when Vince bought WCW. Everybody was talking about Bischoff's group and this other group because something that doesn't get mentioned a whole lot is Jerry Jarrett tried to put a group together to buy it when it was up for sale. Because Jeff was there at the time and Jerry was doing some consulting backstage. Jerry Jarrett tried to put a group together that was talked about. Bischoff's group had got the nod to buy it. Nobody was talking about Vince buying WCW. So, it could cut. It could come in and, I mean that could be a, if he comes in and buys it, he could put Ring of Honor on the network instead of having that Honor Club thing. He could put Ring of Honor on.
So does he get rid of AEW if that's the case? And just combine it all into one?
See, that goes back to, there's a lot of things about the draft that I understood and a lot that I didn't. When they split the world title, I was fine with it. When they split the tag titles, I was fine with it for the simple fact of, 2 shows, 2 titles. And That's the way it was before Thunder and SmackDown came along. You had Raw, you had Nitro, and before Nitro, just Saturday night. But there was a world champion for each show per se. But you see it. The draft never sticks because this network wants this guy, this network wants that guy. Well, why don't we have her? Well, they've got her. Well, why can't we have her too? Or whatever. I mean, there's just a lot of things that didn't work. And yeah, the competitors wanted to beat the other show, but management didn't care. So
Yeah.
I mean, what do you actually do with it? I mean, I don't think you could really combine them because of, and again, I'm not shitting on the elite, but because of their contract and being EVPs, if you buy WWE,
I mean, they wouldn't be EVPs of WWE. They'd have to buy out that EVP contract.
well, that's what I'm saying. But if they go in there and trying to, whatever, and I'm not saying they're bad guys. I'm just using a what if type scenario. But if he tried to combine everything and you've got them back there going, well, we're EVPs of Tony's company, and Roman Reigns looking at him going, fuck you. I can completely see that happening. So, I mean, it would be some growing pains. It would be some things to learn.
Tony would have to keep Triple H or someone in that capacity because there's no way.
Well,
You have to keep a lot of people around.
yeah, because they're a conglomerate. I mean, they're global. I mean, yeah, he's done the joint shows with in Mexico and New Japan, but I mean, WWE is a worldwide machine, and if he thinks he can do that by himself and book all those shows and everything, he'd be dead in a year from exhaustion.
Be a lot of cocaine involved.
Oh yeah, well that was the 80s, so probably the 90s too for that matter. But no, I mean it's I've read stuff that said don't worry because even when it gets sold, they'll keep most of the stuff in place because it's.
I mean, but that's what they're saying. Nobody knows. I mean,
nobody.
All we know is it's very likely it's going to get sold. So they're saying, oh, everything will stay the same, but nobody knows if that's the truth. I mean, it could, but also it could not.
Well, I mean, whoever bought it, if they're going to spend that much money, would be very stupid to come in and change stuff up because the way it's running now is what has put it at this price that is going to be there. And if they want to maintain it and try to keep going with it, unless you just want to fall back on the video library and hope that makes you all the money you can get, they would.
I hate to compare it, but it was like when everybody knows I'm a big Power Ranger nerd. When Hasbro in 2018 bought out Power Rangers, it's now 2023, and what they did was they kept a lot of people around who were with the Power Rangers brand, but they eventually moved their people in once they learned the ins and out of the business. So
And
that could happen.
And it's also possible that they could run it into the ground. And I mean, there's so many scenarios out there. Like, let's just say, I mean, because Triple H and Stephanie they will make a lot of money from a sale. They've got a lot of stock. They don't have as much as Vince does, but they will make a lot of money from the sale of the company. He might not want to stay depending on who buys it. Everybody just assumes that he's going to want to stay, and he might not want to. There's so many different things that could happen. He could stay. He could fly away to somewhere tropical and forget about the wrestling business, which I don't think that would happen because he loves it, but it could. He could go to work for Tony Khan if he wanted to and help Tony. He could, with as much money as he's about to make, he could start his own promotion and try to, actually do NXT, whatever he would want to call it, do NXT the way he was trying to put it together when he had the Undisputed Era and all the guys that made NXT so popular. I mean, there's 100 different things that could happen, and it's just a wait and see kind of thing. And I think, honestly, the best place that could probably buy it, from a wrestling fan perspective, would be NBC Universal.
Yeah, because they probably wouldn't change much. I mean, they would keep the same people around.
They've been working with them for years. I mean, the only that's where Raw started, was on the USA Network. They took the couple of year hiatus for whatever. I don't even remember why they went.
It was probably the dog show, right? Because they kept getting pulled for that damn dog show.
Oh my God, yeah. When that was part of the contract when they came back to USA, was they couldn't be preempted for anything Vince hated being put on after that dog show. He hated it. But like I said, it might have had something to do with it. I'm not real sure. You have to go back and read on it why they went to TNN for those couple of years. But they've been on the USA Network for a long time. They work well together with the staff that they have. They communicate well, and NBC Universal knows that the people in charge now know what they're doing. So I think from a staying the same as what we're accustomed to, that would be the best place to buy it.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the people from Netflix would do with it, or Amazon.
They probably don't. They don't know either. They just be like, "Oh, we got a big wrestling company. Now what?"
Well, it's not a wrestling company. They are definitely an entertainment company.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I don't think Tony Khan will buy it, but like you said, nobody knows what's going to happen. So this is probably one of the most interesting times to be a wrestling fans.
If you let me borrow some money, I'll go buy it. I'll give you a good position.
Motherfucker, I ain't got no money. I'm broke.
I'll give you a good return on your investment, and I'll give you a job doing some social media.
Ain't got no money to hell. So we're about at that hour mark. I think we've covered everything we want to cover. I think we'll do this again every Sunday at around 11 a.m.
Ish.
We'll figure it out. But if you like the show, you know where to find it. We'll have the podcast up soon, so you can go listen to it. You can rewatch it here on Facebook or on YouTube, whichever you desire. But I am Chris Ace. You can find me anywhere at The Real Chris Ace.
Are you real? Are you a real boy?
No, not really.
And anywhere you would like to locate me is onto Twitter is where I'm normally at.
I hate Twitter.
Yeah, I love Twitter. J. Brandon Ingram. I'm on Facebook as well. Twitter, Snapchat. What's the other thing? TikTok.
I do have 3,000 followers on TikTok.
I'm at 2, so I actually got to start doing some more on that so I can interact with all you wonderful people.
Yep. So catch us again next week. I think, what is next week? Next week's not the Rumble. I think it's the week after, maybe.
And if you're listening to the show, go on Twitter and give a follow to Felicia Rose, the indie wrestling's best kept secret, and she's also a wonderful porn star. You can give her a follow. Go follow her. She's trying to get to 10K followers by February.
I'm trying to get 10K followers by February on TikTok because I'm going on the Jericho cruise, man.
Yeah, can I borrow money? I'll go with you.
I ain't got no money. That's why I'm broke.
All right. Well, anything else you want to talk about?
Nope, that was it.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time. Same bat channel, same bat time. And again, for the good old real.
No. Hold up. Different bat time. It's like 3:00.
Oh, well. Well, almost the same bat time. Same bat channel for the real boy. He's the real Chris Ace. I'm J. Brandon Ingram. You know me. Let it ride.